today's episode, we are going to be talking about Polaroids and Energy.95. Welcome to Elitis Insights. I'm your host, MJ Elitis. I'm a purpose and life navigation coach / entrepreneur. And I'm going to be talking about all the interesting things that went into creating this historical creative archive. Originally, I was searching for a side hustle. I was thinking, this thought hit me and I thought to myself, wouldn't it be a cool idea to have a Polaroid camera and I could sell these Polaroid pictures for a set amount, a set price? And this is what birthed Polaroids and Energy, the historical creative archive. So I've got this idea in my head and I'm thinking to myself, okay, how do I do this? What do I do? Where do I begin? And I started doing my research. So I wanted to see online if anybody else is doing this. I realized no one else was doing this idea. So I purchased my first Polaroid camera. I was going to call it a Polaroid and Energy camera, or technically it was. And I bought this camera and I was like, okay, I got it in baby pink because I like the color. It made me happy. And I was like, right, let me grab this. And I've got this camera now. And I'm thinking, right, I've got the film. And I started going around in my city in London. And I started walking around and asking people, hey, would you like a Polaroid picture? So I started off like this and I got a couple of sales, but I started to actually hit some hiccups, and the hiccups were normal. This is a completely normal process because if you don't discover the hiccups, the things that the areas of teething, the areas that you would like, okay, something's not working, you go back to the drawing board. I was like, okay, cool. I realized people didn't carry cash in this modern age. No one carries £5 notes. Like, who am I to think that people go around with £5 notes? So I was charging £5 for the pictures, and that was a markup on the actual Polaroid itself. So the Polaroids, I can't remember how much they cost, but I know it worked out to be like £2 per Polaroid image. So I said, let me charge £5. That's 100% profit, right? So I went around testing this device, and I would jump on the tube. If you know what the tube is, I'll jump on the metro, the London Underground, and I would go to all the places where it was hustling and it was bustling, and I would ask people, hey, would you like a picture, the picture of the camera, a Polaroid picture? And yeah, I was making some sales, and I realized quickly that the functionality of this camera I'd chosen was a Generation 1 Polaroid Now. And the reason I bought this particular camera was because of the simple fact that it was a point and shoot camera. I just wanted to be on the go. So I got this beautiful camera just to go. And I think they've updated them now. They may even very well be a third generation out. The last time I checked many months ago, there was a second generation. And then I realized the next snag, which was there was low light. And because there was such low light, we had an issue with this because of the fact that, you couldn't capture people. And that was a very, very, very big, difficult and annoying thing, because obviously you want to be able to take someone's picture, and it was quite difficult. So with all this information, I would go back to the drawing board and I would ask myself, why is other people not buying? What are the problems here? How can I fix them? And this is where I really started to work things out. So I would go back out into the streets. And I realized early on that people needed social proof. So they needed to know I wasn't here to scam them, right? So I got some test pictures, or I took some Polaroid pictures, and I laminated them. And what I would do is, let me see if I can find the actual image. I'll see if I can find some for you. We have this image here, just on a lamppost of a tree in the sunlight, one of me handstanding, and I thought I'd take a picture of people playing football. So overcoming early challenges, I've got all these images, these test pictures that I would show people, and I'd be like, oh look, could be the image that you want. Now, Polaroid film has actually evolved since then. Back in the 80s, 90s, and so forth. That was when you take a picture and people would often move the Polaroid picture back and forth like so to dry the picture. But these are apparently a different technology, and they're not. It's not like a wet inky surface. It's more of you just wait, keep in the dark for 15 minutes. So this posed a problem because obviously I'd take people's pictures and then I would be off. And I'd be like, I'd have to get my message right, and I'll explain to people from the get-go what happened. So, I've got these images. And then I realized, okay, right, people don't have the £5 notes, as I said. So I was like, how do I overcome this? What do I do? And what I did was I said to myself, well, what about if I get a card reader? Boom. I was like, this is the way to go. Get a card reader. So I've got a card reader now. And in order to get a card reader, I've had to go, look online and do all those things. And once I've got this card reader, I'm like, it's asking for an address. And obviously people can get like a virtual receipt sent to them. And this posed another problem because it would put my home address onto these receipts. Now, I don't want no one turning up at my home. I don't want no one knowing where I live. So I was like, okay, how do I sort this out? So what I did was I invested in a PO box which required my identification. And that way I could use the PO box on the receipts. And you can actually say it's an office, which was fantastic for me because that way I can move off and have this office that people, if they, no one's going to go and email back the receipts, but you needed to cover all your bases, right? So that was that. And so now I'm armed with my Polaroid camera. I've got my pictures and I've got my card reader and I'm going about the place. And then it came down to, I believe it was the World Cup at the time. And I don't even know, it could have been 2021 when this happened or 2022. But the World Cup was happening at the time. I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to go around taking pictures. And it worked a little bit. I only got 2 or 3 sales. And there were people who wanted their pictures taken. I took them. And then I believe England lost the World Cup and everyone was very angry. So no one wanted their pictures taken. And I came and I realized that quickly early on because I'm not really into football. I never really grew up into it. But as I was walking home, and I went up to this guy and this girl, and I was like, "Oh, do you want your picture taken?" And this guy looked at me and he was like, "Bruv, get back, bruv." And he was obviously very emotional and very angry that England had lost, and his girlfriend didn't know any better. She was just like, "Oh," like this, and I was like, "Okay, let me just call it a night." So those are the early on challenges, and I learned a lot, and I realized that it wasn't really so much the Polaroid itself or the idea, it was actually my salesmanship skills, being on the floor, in the heat of the moment, being in these massive crowds, being on the street, talking to people, going up to people and saying, "Hey, would you like a picture?" It wasn't as simple as, "Hey, would you like a picture?" It was more about selling the idea and actually telling someone, you can have this image for the rest of your life and you can look back on it and think, wow, this is something I really want to look back on. So now I'm not finished with the idea. I'm only just getting started. And I'm thinking to myself, what can I do to improve the process? So I set up an Instagram page called PolaroidsAndEnergy.95. And there was so much behind this because at this point, I'm not sure if I've jumped off the idea of selling the Polaroids themselves because this idea is now starting to evolve into something greater than that. And I've set up this Instagram account and I've come up with the idea. So Polaroids, I like Polaroids because the actual Polaroid itself is authentic. Once you take a picture, it's done. You can retake it if you really want to, but you're dealing with another Polaroid picture. And that's the authenticity I was looking for. I love authenticity when it comes to the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, specifically the 90s, because that's when I was born. But if you look back at those point and go pictures back way back, you'd get that authentic moment where someone's sealed in a picture, and if someone's dropping something or someone makes a funny face, It is just, that is it, and that is it forever. So with a digital camera, obviously you can take multiple pictures over and over again. And I seek to eliminate that and bring that authentic vibe into this digital age, because people need to see it. People need that authentic, that originality. And what says originality than a Polaroid picture? The energy aspect of Polaroids and Energy, the name itself, energy was something I've had a lot of in my time. I've done free running. I used to go out play. As kids, we used to go out play. A lot of people, obviously, they're on their phones. Children are on their phones these days. I don't know if people go out to play per se, but I was so heavily involved into going out to doing free running, parkour, and all these things. And I used to be into circus, and I love things that are full of energy. And I thought to myself, Polaroids and Energy, it works. And then the 95 is to denote to my birth year. So, PolaroidsAndEnergy.95. 95 being also a reference to the 1990s, and it's an era of nostalgia. So that was the idea. So after a lot of customer feedback, and people would obviously follow the Instagram, I'd say to people, take the pictures, hey, would you like to follow the Instagram? Eventually, I shelved the idea because I really wanted to just pivot and go on to do other things. And at the time, I was actually learning how to copyright, and I was learning how to write in this format because I really wanted to take another path. So I've got this Polaroids and Energy idea, and I've completely shelved it for a good a year or two, a year and a half. I didn't touch it for some time, and then I went on to go and look at local restaurants and so forth and so on, and ask them, could I do test my copywriting skills? So essentially, if you don't know what copywriting is, if you ever seen KFC, it says on the poster, finger licking good. That is a piece of copywriting. That's essentially marketing, and it's sales in written form, and it captivates their target audience. You're thinking finger licking good. That sounds so good. It sounds tasty. You can imagine the crisp chicken. I'm probably making you hungry. I'm making myself hungry. And I was yeah. So I learned this skill, and I thought I could try it out on takeaway restaurants, local takeaway restaurants, and I did. So I focused on that for some time until I came back to the idea, took Polaroids and Energy back off the shelf, and I took my understanding and my skills that I'd just learned inside of working in restaurants and so forth and so on takeaways and whatnot. And I brought it back, and I invested those skills into Polaroids and Energy, and that's how it's done. So when I revived Polaroids and Energy and I came back, this is when the real fun started to begin. So locally there was London, it's got a bunch of roller skaters, and I do believe inline skaters, but I had purchased my roller skates and I wanted to get involved in the roller skating community. And this was the perfect opportunity to refine my idea. And what I started to do was I started to serve the community in London. And instead of taking pictures for people who were selling the pictures, I would actually give them away for free. And with my Polaroids and Energy account, what I would do is I'd take group photos, as you can see, and I would let people take pictures of them. But what I would do is I'll grab everybody's Instagrams and I would tag them. So this I did and made a perfect networking opportunity. People get something out of it for free. I get their Polaroids, I get their Instagram accounts, and I am able to build a network whilst using this, and everyone's getting beneficial value of exchange. So everyone's getting something out of it. And this was fantastic because not only did I go around and I started taking pictures for everybody, I also was able not only to build a network, but I became known as that guy, and I put myself in a position of serving people. And that was fantastic because it was people were like, yeah, this guy, he helps a lot and he's this cool guy that helps. So I got known as that guy and I was like, right, cool. And all of this was all just pure discovery. I didn't know this would happen. but it did, and it was a learning curve. So then the next thing I realized was that Polaroids are expensive. I could not keep up with this unless I had some type of serious income. And I was like, even though I was uploading these to the Instagram channel, the page, and you can see those, it was a problem because £2 per picture, no one's got £2 per picture if you're just broke and you're trying to help people. So that's when Polaroids and Energy evolved to the next layer, which was I would get my iPhone 12 and I would use this instrument, which is absolutely battered and destroyed. Let me see if I can get it the case off. Here, as you can see, this is absolutely, let's get that really up and tight where I've dropped it and it's gone through a few things. I would use my camera as a means to film people's videos, and everyone really, really wanted their videos taken because people are doing tricks, they're doing these amazing things, and no one is actually getting, well, people are filming people's stuff, but obviously everyone wants their stuff filmed as well, even the people filming, because they're also skaters. So I was like, okay, I will film, and what I would do is I would airdrop, or I would also email to accommodate people who are on Android, people's videos, and I would never really ever send them over WhatsApp unless it really was required, because if I was sending them over WhatsApp, it downgrades the quality. So I'd make sure that I got people's emails, I got everybody's like details, and I'd be just sending them and airdropping these things, and people love that. And I'd just be like, hey, just tag Polaroids and Energy. And that's just essentially how it started. And I would just rinse and repeat this process. So I would come along to these skating events. If I had a Polaroid picture to take and I had any of those, I would take them. But by this point, I was like, okay, that's too expensive. And then boom, I started filming people's content, and it got really, really good. So I established this brand voice, and what I really, really wanted to do was push into the fact that it was a joyful place. I wanted those joyful colors. I wanted something, the essence of the 90s in my mind was a very joyful time. Of course, there were times where, in the 90s where it wasn't the case whatsoever, but we're talking about like, when you was a kid, if you ever had the privilege of watching The Simpsons, or, seeing all that creativity from all the artistry or the hip hop scene, you had MTV, come into play the early 2000s. It was such color and there was such creativity, and people were so cool, and that was like the last time things were like really cool from what I can tell, from the end of an era. Now it's just everybody's just rinse and repeat. And copying, fashion styles, and they're just coming back in and out. So I've made this platform as a place of joy and nostalgia and creativity. I brought in vibrant colors. I really wanted to bring those blues, the sky blue with the clouds, and the orange, because they were very happy colors, to just foster community and bring people together, which it did. I've actually established this awesome account. People know me. I'm that guy. I've let people know, hey, if you ever see me, feel free to ask me to film your stuff. I will film it. And I'll film it not even out of the sense of, sometimes I would film the content. I'm not even add it to Polaroids and Energy. I would just do it for the sake of giving and being of service, because I wanted to help people, quote unquote, win. That's essentially my motto as it stands, to help others win. And giving to other people is such a it's such a joyful experience. So I'm there pouring out positivity, and I thought, well, how can we innovate? How can we make this go even further with this, right? So I was like, then the idea struck me. I went to a local skate shop and I partnered with them as an affiliate. Now, this was a game changer, because this taught me that I could actually partner with people and get sponsorships. If you was to replicate this process anywhere else in business and online, you can do this. But this is the first time I'm ever doing this. So the local skate shop, for London, JT Skates. In fact, if you're going to get some roller skates, feel free to stop right now and go into the link and get your own skates. You can buy those. I'll leave a link there. However, JT Skates was a place they were, doing affiliate marketing, and you could buy and get your skates through this link. So I was like, okay, cool. I could promote their link on Polaroids and Energy. So I was like, okay, now I've got an affiliate, right? So I've got a quote unquote business partner. I'm thinking, yeah, this is all that and this. And then I moved on. I started spotting opportunities to really increase the brand awareness. Now, at this point, I really cared about the skating community, and oftentimes we'd see rubbish on the floor. And there was lots of rubbish, and we discovered not all of the rubbish was coming from the skating community. There was obviously, within any community, you'd have people talking amongst themselves and saying, oh, maybe it's the younger generation, it's the older generation. And it turns out it was like a completely different community. I think maybe someone was skateboarding. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But people were talking about rubbish. And what I did was I created a campaign called Keep Skate Zones Clean. And I basically, if I can put it up on the screen now, I put essentially a carousel, an Instagram carousel with all different colors of the same message, so different people could share this message and it would suit them. And it completely lit up the skating community. I don't know, this is quoting this off the top of my head, at least 200 or at least 100 or so people did share it. And I was like, cool, so we're getting the message out there, but I'm also getting Polaroids and Energy out there. And this is why I realized at this point in time, it's so important to, if you're into social media, to watch trends and see what's going on in that particular community, because by doing so, you can actually, capture a moment which you can really hone down on and capitalize on. Then I decided to, with my social media skills, I really wanted to help other people analyze their social media presence. And because I'd created something essentially out of thin air and very original, I had done a lot of research at the time, how to optimize your profile, how to optimize your Instagram, having the bio, what kind of posts to put out there, to gauge people's attentions, to gauge people's attentions. And this was fantastic because by having this this method, I could actually help others. So I started a campaign. I wanted to Canva, started really learning how to use Canva, and I started using AI generated images, and I created a product or a service essentially, and I used the same brand theme. And I wanted to direct it, like cool young people in their 20s, college type, university type. And I got like artificial intelligence to create these cool hoodies of people wearing like the branding. Of course, I couldn't make this myself at this point in time, but I thought, this would be absolutely amazing to have these hoodies and create these things. So I put those people onto like a poster, and this poster was to promote these services of helping people's Instagrams get analyzed and to actually help them possibly make money, to make branding and services and so forth. And remember, all of this was completely experimental at the time. So I'm just absolutely venturing into this world. I'm just trying things out and I'm seeing what works and what doesn't. Now, I quickly realized not many people were receptive. I think what happened was I realized that now I have a whole network of people. I started messaging them one by one, and I started trying out different messages. And I was like, hey, I saw your Instagram, I was trying this. And I was like, would you like to have your Instagram, your socials checked out for a small price? And one or two people got back to me. Most people weren't interested. I think they were just interested in the fun of it. They weren't particularly interested in actually making any money. But what was beautiful was the fact that I had contact lists, and obviously I had fostered these relationships so I could actually do this. Now, if you didn't have your own network, you wouldn't be able to do this. So I fostered these networks from actually helping people and exchanging value in the form of pictures and video. And now I've got this network and I'm messaging them, and this was fantastic because you could still take this and give this out to someone, like replicate this process. And they say it's like cold outreach, they say, but these were leads that were warm. So these are people I'd obviously worked with. So I feel like I've completely, at this point in time, maxed out my services on Instagram. I'm making these really powerful videos and stuff. And I remember having conversations at the time, and I don't think some people who were with me at the time didn't know the amount of effort that was actually going into these videos, because these videos were made to look like they were very nitty gritty type of, like to replicate the Polaroid itself. And I was looking for them imperfect, perfect moments, and stuff that made people sing, smiles, people falling over, the stuff that people will remember forever. And a lot of people were like, "Hey, you should be consistent at it." And what they meant was that I should put more videos out at a higher rate, and that meant attending more events and then editing. Now I can edit videos really quickly, 2, 3, 4 hours. I can just knock up something and make it look beautiful. And oftentimes I'd film and come home and just absolutely spit this video out, and people were like, "Whoa, that was just like what we're still at that skating event." Like, so I was able to send these videos out, but the trouble is, people didn't understand that, like I was doing the maximum of what I was capable of, and I was producing some real gems. But at the same time, in terms of consistency, for the level of artistry that went into these videos, it was absolutely impossible to just keep doing this over and over again at a higher rate, without having a better return on an investment. And the way I figured that out, I was thinking, well, how could I monetize these in the future if I really wanted to then actually like get more Polaroids and be able to have completely like, just give Polaroids out for free, because they essentially that doubles down as a business card. And I like the fact that it could be free. That would be very nice and lovely to have something to give away for free, rather than actually it being a side hustle, which it originally was. So I came up with the idea that we should take it to YouTube. And when that hit me, I realized you could go from a short form platform to a long form platform. It was the penny drop. I was like, wow, okay, so we've really come far, and now it's time to go to Polaroids and Energy YouTube account. So I set that up, and again, I wanted to do everything properly and make sure that I really thoroughly experienced what it meant to actually really get an idea and thoroughly go through it and test things out. No shortcuts. I didn't want to take the easy route. I really wanted to do the maximum what I could do with the technology I had, and obviously that was an iPhone 12, and I was editing everything on this iPhone 12. My laptop is a literally £100 laptop from Curry's PC World, and this is absolutely this machine has no capability of actually editing anything of that grade. So I was pushing the technology to its max. I was editing on InShot, and there was great updates since, but at the time it was very limited, and all I needed was cut, delete, cut, and then just to grade the image. But I think what shocked people was the fact that you have to have an eye for taking these videos. So if you don't have an eye for it, you can't really you can't make it happen. They say it's not about the plane, it's about the pilot. So yeah, that was that. And then I've come to YouTube now, and I was talking to someone at the time. It was a young woman called Christabel, and she is completely blown up on social media now. She's getting X amount millions on her social media stories, on her the things she posts. It's like it's insane. Like I remember checking on her profile one day, she had like a couple of thousand people. Next minute, she's just completely, by the looks of it, world renowned. So her birthday was coming up, and I was like, hey, I will film you a video. And we can do an interview. And that was it. So she took the opportunity, and we went to Flippers in London. I do believe Flippers have actually closed down, unfortunately. But at the time, Flippers, it's the only time I went. Now it's Christabel's birthday. And I'm like, okay, let me go and see like how I can film this for her. So I've turned up and, you know, I've made the day completely about because she is the subject matter in this video. And I've just filmed her throughout this whole thing, and I'm filming, getting as much footage as possible. But at the same time, I also want to film so not only am I filming landscape, I want to film portrait because I want to make a promotional video. So I'm filming 2 videos at any one time. And I'm filming as much as I can. I'm going around the skating rink. You know, people are thinking, who is this guy like filming this girl? Like, what is this? And at the time, I remember even a couple of her colleagues, so she worked there, I believe, inquire what's going on. And obviously, you know, I'm filming. And it was an absolute brilliant night, you know. And then I've contacted again a couple of days later, and we've met up at another skating spot to capture that interview, which was fantastic because this scene where we had the Millennium Dome in the background, which is now formerly known as the Millennium Dome, is called the O2 Arena in London, and we got a really lovely, beautiful interview of her talking, and it was a real timestamp in history. And she's talking, but I didn't want to involve my voice. So again, I'm pushing the limits. I'm like, how can I use another voice? And again, I'm researching, doing a hex amount of research and development. And at the time, and even now, there's artificial voice synthesizers, and you can put a script into these, and you know, you can use ChatGPT, which I was heavily using at the time, learning about prompts. If you don't know what a prompt is, it's like the question you ask or feed into this artificial intelligence database, and it uses it to then create something. So I would say, can you create a script for someone, Christabel? And it would go, okay, here's a script. And this is a very simple way of putting it. And I'll take the text and I'd put it into a voice synthesizer, and the voice synthesizer would say, hey, so and so forth, and it would speak these words. I didn't just stop there. I was like, how do I make this even more professional, right? So we learn and we continue, and I decided to, I remember back in the day when I was an actor, oftentimes they would have release forms, and these release forms were there, you know, to cover your rights, to cover the rights of the person in front, who was, you know, filming. And I was like, okay, let me create a release form. And I discovered a lot about contracts, which ones are legally binding, which ones are not. I can't remember the service. I think it was DocuSign, pardon me, that I used. And then I would chase up the people in the video, and I would be like, hey, can you sign this? And I got their emails, I got them to sign it. And there was one person who didn't sign it. And I didn't include them in the video because I wanted to make sure that they were, that I wanted to do things properly. And again, the whole idea of doing things properly is that it's a learning process. You see what goes into it, and then seeing what ingredients go into something rather than going around it and finding a really quick way to go about things. Then you can know in the future whether if you really want to use that process again. So I'm glad I went through everything and I tried everything out. And then once I'd done that, I made this video, I put it out there, added the links, you know, I made sure to credit everybody because that's the thing I really want to make sure people are getting promoted for their work. And, you know, I added a donate button, you know, I added the affiliate marketing from where it's just pure leverage upon leverage on leverage in the description bar of the YouTube video. I even got a link for I don't know what the agent, no, it wasn't an agency. It was something to do with, in the end, I realized this was such a good service that I could eventually probably monetize this and then go on to actually replicate this elsewhere because I've been in the circus industry where I was in a circus school for a year when I was a teenager, a story for another time. I could actually go and utilize this and put this into other creative industries, and I did. And I really wanted to test out this idea, and I ended up working with someone who was in salsa, Lady Joy, Miss Carolina, And I went off to go and essentially film her. And I did the same thing, but I did it on the Instagram channel. And I realized then from that point on, this is something I could replicate and do anywhere and everywhere. So this place was such a heap of value, and it was one of the most exciting things ever. Now, should I take this up in the future? I do believe I will. This is probably number one, like part one, you could say, and I'll come back with part two in the future. But if I do come back, which I probably will, it will be a seasonal thing in summertime, and I will most definitely be talking about. I'll be furthering this, replicating the process, and just making so much color. But obviously, I need to get right now at this time. I have no equipment. I just have my iPhone 12. I pushed it to the maximum of its capabilities, and I realized I would need something stronger than just an iPhone 12, and a better computer. But time to insert a CTA, a call to action. The call to action I really want to insert is, hey, if you're out there and you need someone to come up with a cool idea, because I am a purpose and life navigation coach and an entrepreneur, among many other things. I've been in the acting industry, I've been in the creative entertainment industry, I've been creative my whole life, and mixed with entrepreneurship. And essentially, if you're looking for some type of mentorship or coaching, I'm here. Like, I can help you thoroughly think out an idea, and I can guide you along that. So if you're willing to reach out and do that with me, well, feel free to reach out to me. And if any aspect of this sings to you, such as the copywriting, the ability to create things, have your Instagram literally optimized, whatever it is, I can literally do that. If I've got the time, I'm willing to help. So feel free to reach out in the comments. Other than that, feel free to look at the Polaroids and Energy Instagram page, the YouTube channel, if you want to look at that. You can see the affiliates if you really want to check that out. You've got my contact button. And honestly, I'm just really excited for the future and to be able to even share this information. Now, what I'm going to do is even this, because one has to be about leverage. So now I've created this amazing YouTube video about it's an amazing YouTube video. I've created this video about the amazing Polaroids and Energy journey. I'm going to use this and leverage this out and take all the beautiful insights from this and the lessons and talk about those. The reason why I'm going to leave it on this. The reason why you should go for it if you're an entrepreneur and you're a creative individual, right, is because it's not just, I created something here that could never ever be told by Instagram, YouTube, or Google, in a sense that the answers are found in the journey. The Google search is such a cop-out. And I say that in the sense that you can use, obviously, Google to work out things and work out what you need to do, what you can do, if you need to buy a card reader and stuff like that. But that's not what we're talking about. It's like, if you go onto Google, you can't just turn around and say, how do I make this particular type of business? When you have an idea that's so unique and so unique to you, sometimes you just got to experiment. And you've got to go out there and you've got to try things and uncover things and work things out, or find someone like a mentor that can show you these things. And why that's so important is because when you get so heavily deep involved in this work and in this process, it's so rewarding. There's no amount of money that would actually compare to the experience I had from actually going out there and helping people take photos and videos. And it seems so simple, but there was so much joy to be had in the exchange and helping people actually get what they need and want out of the service. And that was such an invaluable experience. It was completely priceless. So if you're somebody out there who is creative and they want support, hey, I'm here. But I absolutely implore you to go out there and try something new. It is the way to go. I don't know why more people do it. I guess a lot of people are fearful. But now I've got this experience. I know I can replicate it again. And once your mind is expanded, you can never go back to those same parameters. So this is MJ Elitis, Purpose, Life and Navigation Coach. And thank you for sticking about if you watched the video to this point onwards. And again, I'll see you next time in Elitist Insights. Take care.